The planet of Zareth was unlike any world Ethan Carver had seen. Red sand stretched as far as the eye could see, and jagged crystal formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning. Strange blue clouds swirled above, carrying a faint hum that made the air feel alive. Ethan stood at the edge of the landing zone, checking his equipment one last time. The mission was simple on paper: recover research data from the alien ruins and return safely. But Ethan had a feeling that simple rarely meant safe. His team of humans and alien specialists were already moving toward the ruins. Most of the aliens were tall, slender, with pale green skin and eyes that glowed softly in the dim light. They spoke in a language that Ethan could barely understand, but the translator implant in his ear kept him connected. Today, however, the peace was fragile. The ruins were rumored to be guarded by creatures known to attack anything that moved. "Keep your scanners up," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. He had a reputation for staying level-headed, even in dangerous situations. "Remember, we need the data, not a fight." The team moved carefully, their boots crunching over the red sand. Suddenly, a low roar echoed from the nearby hills. The ground shook slightly and the alien members of the team froze. Ethan raised a hand. "Everyone stay together. Watch your flanks." A massive shadow moved over the ridge. Ethan's heart raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. From behind the crystals, a group of large alien creatures emerged. They had sharp claws, thick scales, and glowing red eyes. Their teeth gleamed in the weak sunlight. The creatures were fast, much faster than anything Ethan had trained for. "Fall back," shouted one of the alien scientists. But Ethan didn't move. He saw a small shape darting behind the rocks. A child. A tiny alien child, not more than 6 or 7, with the same pale green skin as his colleagues. The child looked terrified, frozen in the open as the creatures advanced. Ethan's stomach tightened. He knew what the protocol was. In a hostile situation, civilians and younglings were left behind if it meant the team's survival. The command from the central station had been clear: evacuate immediately, no exceptions. But Ethan could not bring himself to leave the child. Something inside him refused. He turned to his team. "Get back to the shuttle. I'll get her." "No. Officer, you can't," one of the alien members protested. "Orders are orders. She will be gone if we stay." Ethan shook his head. "Some orders are wrong. We are not leaving her." The child's eyes widened as Ethan sprinted forward, dodging falling rocks and claws. The creatures lunged, but Ethan's training took over. He fired his stun blaster, aiming for the creature's legs. They howled and staggered, giving him just enough time. The child ran toward him, stumbling in the sand. Ethan scooped her up, holding her close. "It's okay, I've got you," he said, feeling her tiny heartbeat against his chest. She clung to him, trembling but silent. Behind them, the team fought desperately to keep the creatures at bay. Ethan could hear the radio crackle with urgent commands. "Evacuate now. You are risking everything." But he ignored it. His focus was on the child. She was alive. That was what mattered. The path back to the shuttle was not easy. Crystals scraped against Ethan's armor, and the wind carried the scent of sulfur from distant geysers. The child's small hands gripped him tightly, and Ethan could feel her fear. He whispered stories as they ran, about Earth, about stars, about hope. Even in this alien world, he knew a human touch could bring comfort. Finally they reached the shuttle. The engines roared to life as the team scrambled aboard. Ethan set the child down and checked her for injuries. She had a small scratch on her arm, but otherwise she seemed unharmed. She looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes, and Ethan felt a strange warmth inside. Protecting her wasn't just the right choice, it felt necessary. As the shuttle lifted off, Ethan glanced back at the ruins. The creatures were still there, but they could no longer reach them. The child rested her head on his shoulder, her tiny fingers curling around his armor. Ethan knew that saving her had already changed everything. Orders or no orders, he would not regret this choice. Even as the shuttle flew into the red sky, Ethan could hear the voice of command in his head, warning him of consequences. But right now none of that mattered. He had done what a human officer should do. He had protected the innocent. He had refused to comply with an order that felt wrong. And in that moment Ethan Carver knew one thing clearly: humans were capable of courage that no creature could predict, and compassion that no protocol could contain. The mission had changed, and so had he. The shuttle hummed as it cut through Zareth's thick red atmosphere. Ethan Carver sat in the pilot's seat, Lyra, the alien child, clinging to his side. Her wide eyes watched the streaking clouds outside the window, but she said nothing. Ethan didn't blame her. Everything had happened so fast and nothing about this world was normal. The rest of the team was tense, arguing quietly over the radio. They wanted to return to base immediately, but Ethan knew that would be dangerous. Command would be furious, yes, but more than that, the alien creatures were still out there. They would not stop hunting. He had to find a safe place first. "Lyra, can you understand me?" Ethan asked softly. The child's small hands tightened on his armor. She nodded slightly but didn't speak. Her species' language was strange, a series of clicks and tones. Ethan relied on a translation implant, but it worked slowly. Ethan tapped the controls, steering the shuttle toward a canyon system he remembered from the planet's maps. The winding cliffs offered cover and gave them a chance to hide. The shuttle shook as they entered the canyon, and Ethan felt the child's fear. He spoke gently. "It's okay. Nothing will get us here. Just a little further." The alien creatures, large and relentless, appeared behind them. They had followed the shuttle's trail through the desert, sensing life, tracking warmth. Ethan could feel the heat in his chest and stomach the way humans do when danger is near. They were fast. Too fast for normal pursuit, but the canyon might slow them down. Ethan pressed a button, and the shuttle released a series of smoke clouds and blinding lights. The creatures hesitated, confused by the sudden distraction. Ethan knew he had seconds to act. "Hold on tight," he shouted. The shuttle dove between two massive crystal spires, narrowly avoiding a strike from a clawed monster. Sparks flew and the child let out a small gasp. Ethan's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the canyon walls finally opened to a hidden valley. The valley was small, surrounded by cliffs, with a river of glowing liquid running through it. Ethan landed the shuttle softly near the riverbank. He set Lyra down gently and scanned the area. No signs of the creatures yet, but he knew they wouldn't stay away for long. "Stay close," Ethan said. Lyra looked up at him and took a cautious step forward. Her tiny feet left marks on the glowing sand. Ethan's mind raced. They needed food, water, and a plan. Most importantly, they needed to move without being seen. Ethan remembered an old alien map he had studied before the mission. There was a network of caves nearby. If they could reach them, the caves would provide temporary safety and allow him to rest and plan the next move. He picked Lyra up again and started walking toward the caves, using the shuttle as cover. The valley was quiet, almost too quiet. Ethan felt eyes on them and he wasn't wrong. From the shadows, creatures emerged slowly, their glowing red eyes fixed on the shuttle and the humans. Ethan didn't panic. He had to think. He activated a small energy shield on his wrist. It created a protective bubble around him and Lyra. The creatures stopped. They hissed and growled, but the shield held. Ethan moved carefully, keeping the child behind the protective barrier. "Almost there," he whispered, more to himself than to Lyra. She clung to his chest, her small body shivering. He could feel her fear, but he could also feel something else, a strange power in her. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly and suddenly the creatures recoiled. They seemed confused, unsure, and finally they retreated into the shadows. Ethan froze. The child had done something. Something he didn't understand. But whatever it was, it had bought them more time. He continued toward the caves, moving slowly but deliberately. Every step was careful. Every glance counted. He reached the entrance to the cave system just as the sun began to set. The glowing river reflected light inside the cavern, illuminating strange patterns on the walls. Ethan set Lyra down and knelt in front of her. "You did good. Very good." Lyra looked at him and made soft clicking noises. Ethan's implant translated it roughly, "Safe, with you." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had risked everything, disobeyed orders, and now, despite exhaustion and fear, he realized something important. Humans were not just fighters, they were protectors. Their courage came from more than training or protocol. It came from compassion. From the choice to act when others would not. He made a small fire in the cave, careful not to create smoke that might be seen outside. He gave Lyra some rations and water. She ate slowly, watching him. He checked her for injuries, only scratches. Nothing serious. As night fell, Ethan sat against the cave wall, Lyra curled against him. Outside, distant roars echoed through the valley. But inside there was quiet. There was safety. There was trust. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The pursuit was not over. The creatures would return. Command would not forgive his disobedience. But at that moment he didn't care. The child was alive and he had chosen to protect her. That choice made him human. That choice would define everything they faced next. He whispered almost to himself, "We'll get through this, Lyra. I promise." The child closed her eyes, finally relaxed. For now they had won a small battle. But Ethan knew the real challenge was still ahead. And for the first time since the mission began, he felt hope. The next morning Ethan woke to the faint glow of Zaratha's twin suns filtering into the cave. Lyra was already awake, sitting quietly near the fire. Her eyes scanned the cave walls, alert and cautious. Ethan smiled softly. She was learning quickly, observing everything. He had to stay alert too. The creatures outside had not forgotten them, and the valley was no longer safe. Ethan checked his comm device. Static. That was expected. His radio signals were likely being blocked by the canyon walls. Then a crackle, a message from command. Officer Carver, return the child immediately. You are in violation of direct orders. Failure to comply will result in court-martial. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had expected this. Command never understood humans the way humans understood themselves. But he did not hesitate. He turned to Lyra. We're not going back there. Not now. Not ever. Lyra tilted her head, making a low clicking sound. Ethan's translator caught it. Safe. Stay. She trusted him. That was enough. They packed supplies quickly. Ethan knew that moving at night would give them a better chance to avoid detection. As they left the cave, the valley seemed peaceful, but Ethan could hear faint growls echoing from the cliffs. The creatures were hunting them still, relentless and patient. As they navigated the rocky terrain, Ethan noticed signs that the child had unusual abilities. She seemed to sense the creatures before they appeared. Several times she pulled him away from danger or froze suddenly when a predator was near. Ethan was careful not to draw attention to it, but he couldn't ignore it. The child was extraordinary. Suddenly the silence was shattered. A group of creatures leaped from the shadows, blocking their path. Ethan raised his blaster, but there were too many and they were fast. Lyra clung to him tightly. The creatures lunged, snapping claws and teeth. Ethan fired, but they kept coming. His shield wouldn't hold for long. Fear threatened to take over, but then Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. A soft hum filled the air, vibrating through the rocks. The creatures froze, their growls turning into confused hisses. Ethan watched, stunned, as they retreated, slowly backing into the shadows. He knelt beside her. What did you do? He asked softly. She only looked up, blinking at him. He didn't understand, but her power had saved them. They continued moving, slower now. Ethan knew he had to find a safer place soon. As they rounded a ridge, he saw smoke in the distance. A small alien settlement, likely abandoned. It could provide shelter, at least temporarily. Before they reached it, a transmission came through the comm again. Officer Carver. You are disobeying direct orders. Surrender the child at once. Ethan ignored it. He couldn't. He had already made his choice. Command's rules were clear, but morality was clearer. Humans could choose to protect the innocent even if it meant disobedience. He had chosen that path. The settlement was empty but mostly intact. Ethan helped Lyra inside, checking for hidden dangers. The walls were lined with strange symbols and devices. Ethan had no time to study them now, but he made a mental note. Some of these devices might help them survive or even defend themselves if the creatures returned. As night fell, Ethan set watches and made a small perimeter. Lyra sat quietly, humming softly. Ethan realized she was not just a child. She was intelligent, aware, and somehow stronger than anyone had expected. He knew that protecting her wasn't just an act of kindness, it might be the key to surviving the planet. Hours passed. Ethan's mind wandered to the consequences of his actions. If Command caught him, he would face serious punishment. Yet every time he looked at Lyra, he knew he had done the right thing. No rule was more important than the life of a child. Suddenly, movement outside. Ethan went to the entrance and saw creatures prowling, trying to find a way in. He raised his blaster, ready to fight, but he noticed Lyra stepping forward. Her eyes glowed again. The creatures hesitated, growling softly, confused by her presence. Ethan realized then that Lyra was not helpless. She could defend herself in ways he didn't yet understand. He didn't need to fear for her as much as he had thought. Yet he would still protect her. A human's duty was to care, to act when needed, and he would not fail. He whispered to her, "We'll face whatever comes together. You and me, Lyra. We're a team." The child nodded, leaning against him. In that moment, Ethan felt a bond that went beyond orders, beyond duty. It was trust, respect, and mutual understanding, the very things that made humans strong in the galaxy. The night was long. Creatures prowled outside, but they didn't enter. Ethan and Lyra rested as best as they could. The conflict was not over, but the first test had been survived. Ethan knew that more dangers awaited, more challenges that would test his courage, morality, and ingenuity. Yet for the first time in a long while he felt ready. He had chosen to protect life over protocol, compassion over obedience. That choice defined him. That choice defined humanity. And as Lyra slept beside him, safe for now, Ethan Carver knew that no matter what came next, humans would rise to the challenge, clever, brave, and fiercely protective of those who could not protect themselves. The morning light crept into the abandoned settlement, casting soft shadows across the alien symbols etched into the walls. Ethan Carver woke first, scanning the area carefully. Lyra, the alien child, was already awake, her small hands tracing the glowing symbols on a wall. Something about the markings made her hum quietly, almost as if she recognized them. Ethan approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "Do you know what this is?" he asked softly. She looked up at him and clicked, the translator implant converting it into a rough phrase, "Knowledge, secrets." He studied the walls. There were maps, diagrams, and strange mechanical symbols. Ethan realized that this settlement was once a center of advanced alien research. It wasn't just abandoned, it held the key to understanding the planet and maybe even more. He felt a thrill of discovery. For years, humans had explored worlds, but rarely had they encountered something this valuable. Lyra stepped closer to one of the symbols. Her tiny fingers brushed over it, and suddenly, a soft blue light spread across the wall. Ethan's eyes widened. The symbols weren't just decoration, they were a hidden interface, a kind of control panel. Lyra's touch activated it. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked, but he didn't move to stop her. There was something in her actions that told him she knew more than she should. The wall shifted, revealing a hidden chamber behind it. Inside, glowing crystals hovered in midair, pulsing with energy. Ethan's heart raced. This was not just a storage area, it was a hub of power, possibly able to control the planet's ancient defense systems. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes glowing faintly. She clicked again, "Protect, save." Ethan understood immediately. She wasn't just a child. She carried knowledge and abilities vital to the survival of the planet and possibly the galaxy. Ethan took a deep breath. Everything they had been running from, the creatures, the dangers outside, suddenly had a new context. These creatures might have been guardians or maybe predators, but the real story was here in these ruins, and Lyra held the key. He activated his comm, trying to reach command again, but the signal was weak. They wouldn't understand the importance of what he had found. Ethan realized that no human could follow protocol here. This was bigger than orders. This was about life, intelligence, and understanding. He had to make his own choices. He and Lyra explored the chamber together. Ethan watched as she interacted with the floating crystals. The lights shifted as if responding to her presence. Diagrams appeared in midair, showing energy networks, hidden pathways, and even alien cities long forgotten. Ethan realized that Lyra could see connections that he couldn't. She had a unique bond with this technology, a connection no one else could replicate. Ethan felt a surge of pride mixed with awe. Humans were explorers, yes, but compassion and courage defined them. He had saved her, trusted her, and now she was helping him unlock secrets no one else could. That was the power of humanity. Courage combined with empathy could uncover truths even the most advanced alien species might hide. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the chamber. Ethan looked outside through a crack in the wall. The alien creatures were approaching, but this time they moved cautiously, almost reverently. Ethan understood that they sensed Lyra's power. They were not mindless predators. They were guardians reacting to the child's presence. He turned to Lyra. "We need to move carefully. Whatever this place is, it's important, and they know it." She nodded, her eyes glowing softly. Ethan realized that their journey had changed. This was no longer just about survival, it was about protecting knowledge, a child, and possibly the future of two species. Ethan set a plan. They would leave the settlement carefully, using the caves and valleys to avoid detection. The knowledge Lyra carried could change everything. He had to keep her safe, not just from the creatures but from anyone who didn't understand her value. Humans might be brave, but many followed orders without question. Ethan refused to make that mistake. As they prepared to leave, Lyra paused and looked at Ethan. Her tiny hand rested on his chest. She clicked softly and the translator read, "Together, safe." Ethan smiled. "Together," he whispered. That single word carried more weight than any order or rule. They left the settlement, moving silently through the valleys. Ethan watched Lyra carefully. Every time she touched the glowing stones or crystals, she revealed more secrets. He realized that she was not just a survivor, she was a guide, a key to understanding the alien world, and a symbol of why humans could make a difference. As night fell, they reached a hidden plateau overlooking a valley filled with alien structures. Ethan could see faint lights glowing in the distance. It was a city, abandoned but intact, and he knew that Lyra could show him its secrets. Sitting with her under the alien sky, Ethan understood the truth. The pursuit, the danger, the choices, they had all led to this moment. Humans were not perfect. They made mistakes. But humans had courage, empathy, and ingenuity. Those traits had kept Lyra alive, and now they could uncover the truth of this planet together. Ethan whispered once more, "We're just getting started, Lyra. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The child pressed her small hand against his, a silent promise. Outside, the alien world waited, full of mystery, danger, and discovery. But for the first time, Ethan felt ready to face it. The valley glowed under Zaratha's twin moons as Ethan Carver and Lyra stood on the edge of the hidden plateau. Below them stretched an ancient alien city, shimmering faintly with lights that had not been seen for centuries. Ethan's heart pounded. He had survived creatures, disobeyed orders, and protected a child who was more than she seemed. Now all of it led to this moment. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, her tiny hand gripping his. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the city below. Ethan realized she understood the importance of what they had found. The city held secrets that could change the fate of both humans and aliens, and she could guide them through it. Carefully, they descended into the valley, avoiding open areas where the alien creatures might still be watching. Ethan moved like a shadow, using every bit of his training to stay quiet. Lyra moved beside him, sensing dangers and pointing out paths that were safe. Her connection to the planet was incredible. Ethan had never seen anything like it. As they reached the city, Ethan's eyes widened. Towers rose high above them, covered in glowing symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Strange machines hummed softly, powered by crystals embedded in the walls. Ethan could see the potential immediately. This was not just a city, it was a hub of knowledge, technology, and energy that could save lives. Suddenly, a group of alien creatures appeared at the far edge of the city. Ethan froze. They were not attacking, they were watching. He understood that they were guardians, and Lyra's presence had calmed them. The creatures recognized her as someone important. Ethan's jaw tightened. They had to reach the city safely. He whispered to Lyra, "Stay close. Follow me exactly." She nodded, trusting him completely. Ethan led the way through narrow pathways and corridors. As they moved, Lyra's abilities became clearer. She touched the glowing symbols on walls and doors opened, lights activated, and hidden pathways revealed themselves. Ethan followed, amazed. She was the key to accessing everything safely. They reached a central chamber filled with floating crystals and holographic displays. Ethan's breath caught. This room was incredible. Energy networks, star maps, and alien records filled the space. Lyra moved to a control panel, her fingers brushing over the crystals. Information appeared, showing secret locations, energy sources, and even ways to communicate with distant planets. Ethan realized what this meant. The child he had saved was not just important. She could prevent conflict, save lives, and even teach humans new ways to explore the galaxy. He felt pride swell inside him. Humans had courage, empathy, and ingenuity. His choice to protect her had led to something far greater than he could have imagined. A sudden transmission crackled on his comm, "Officer Carver. Cease all actions and return immediately." Ethan ignored it. Command didn't understand. They couldn't see the importance of Lyra's abilities or the secrets of the city. Sometimes humans had to make their own choices, guided by morality, courage, and compassion. As he focused on the holographic displays, Lyra activated a sequence that revealed a hidden energy network running beneath the city. Ethan understood instantly, this could power the planet safely, stabilize dangerous areas, and prevent the creatures from attacking settlements. It was a solution no one had expected. The alien guardians watched silently as Ethan and Lyra worked. Ethan realized that humans could act where others hesitated. They could think, adapt, and protect the innocent. That was why he had survived so far and why he had saved Lyra. Compassion and ingenuity had always been humanity's greatest strengths. Hours passed as Ethan and Lyra studied the networks. Finally, Ethan stood, exhausted but determined. "We've done it, Lyra. We can save them, all of them. Humans and aliens together." The child clicked softly in agreement, her eyes glowing warmly. As dawn approached, Ethan sent a carefully crafted transmission to command, explaining the situation, Lyra's abilities, and the potential of the city. He did not hide that he had disobeyed orders, but he emphasized the results. Lives saved, knowledge preserved, and a way to prevent further conflict. Minutes later, a response came. It was cautious, but it acknowledged his actions. They could not ignore what he and Lyra had discovered. Ethan smiled. He had risked everything, and humanity's courage and morality had prevailed. He looked at Lyra. We made the right choice. You and me, we did this together. She reached out and touched his chest, her small hand warm and steady. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride and relief. Protecting the innocent, choosing courage over blind obedience, that was what made humans extraordinary. As they left the city, Ethan knew their journey was far from over. There would be challenges, threats, and dangers ahead. But with Lyra by his side, he was ready for anything. The creatures, the alien technology, the conflicts, they were all part of a larger adventure. And humans, he realized, would always rise to face it with bravery, empathy, and ingenuity. Flying back toward the hidden plateau, Ethan allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Every choice, every risk, every act of courage had led them here. He had saved a life, protected knowledge, and shown that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to care and to act. The twin suns rose over Zareth, painting the valley in gold and red. Ethan Carver and Lyra looked at it together, standing side by side. He knew the galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and dangers, but humans could meet them. Humans could protect the innocent, think creatively, and rise above the rules when morality demanded it. Ethan smiled and whispered, "This is just the beginning, Lyra. But whatever comes next, we face it together." The child pressed her small hand against his again, a silent promise. And in that moment, under the alien sky, Ethan Carver felt hope. He felt pride. He felt the truth of humanity shining brighter than any star. Courage, compassion, and ingenuity could triumph over any obstacle. They were ready. The galaxy would remember that humans, no matter the odds, always chose to do what was right.